developer may not show. Can I get each of you to open your Excel right now and tell me whether or not your developer ribbon is showing on Courtney's screen? Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it. Very kind of you. And send me a quick email after class so I can post some additional credit for you. What do you do if you don't have a developer's tab with your Excel spreadsheet? This is Excel, right? Yeah. Courtney, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Can you click on the file menu, please?
Mm-hmm.
And then can you click on options? And then can you click on customize ribbon? And then on the no, that's commands. There. So
Okay.
open up developer. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, they're added in. I checked the box, so it should be added in.
Uh-huh. Okay. So you click OK. It's under the automate, and now you have developer, right? Does everybody see how he has developer now? So now his screen has changed. Okay. Now, if you've never heard of macros and what they can do, it's pretty cool stuff. So essentially what you do is you start recording a macro, and then you do what you're supposed to do. And then when you're finished, you stop recording the macro and you give it a name. And then in a new situation, you can simply recall the macro and it will repeat everything that you did previously. However, it's time and space sensitive. So what do I mean by that? Let's pretend that Courtney is in cell C5. Can you click on C5, Courtney?
C5, sure.
Okay. And let's say that he develops a whole series of entries here while he's recording a macro, but then he opens up a new spreadsheet and he runs the macro, but his cursor is an A1. Do you think the macro is going to know? I guess what I'm saying is, do you think the macro is going to work just as well if he's in a different place when he executes the macro? Is he going to be in the exact same place? It can happen depending on the features and functions that you're accessing, that where you are when you start the macro is important to remember. The point I'm trying to make is if Courtney starts to build out something with C5, and then a week later he wants to just hit the easy button, but he's not in the same place, depending on the features and functions he is engaging, those may or may not build out in the same place and in the same manner, because you have to remember where you start. Okay, can you stop sharing, Courtney?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is share my screen again. And we're just gonna try this as a basic experiment. So remember I said, depending on the features and functions that you execute, it may or may not work the same, okay? I'm going to go ahead and record a macro, and I'm going to call this trial, right? I'll call it trial 1. And I want to store the macro in this workbook. But I could store the macro in different locations. So this macro is going to run inside the workbook. And I'm going to say to demo automation options in Excel. Everybody with me? Can everybody see how my icon in the upper left corner has changed to show stop recording?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click down here and rename the sheet. And I'm going to say test one, test sheet 1. What do you think would happen if I were to open a new sheet and run this macro again, and I tried to name it the same name as an existing tab? What do you think would happen if I tried to run the macro and that name already existed?
It'll probably say error or something like that. You won't be able to.
Exactly. Right. So that's another example of the state of the environment that you're in. When you're using macros, it's important to consider some of the actions that you're recording. Okay. So what we could do is change the name of this spreadsheet, change the name of this sheet afterwards, open a new sheet and run the macro. And we wouldn't have a traffic jam. But that's just one thing I want to make abundantly clear. Now I'm going to go ahead and just build a series out like I did before, where I put a number in and I'm going to put a formula in that references that number, and I'm going to add to it. I'm going to add 5 to it, and then I'm going to select that formula and fill down that formula. And now that I have that series built, I'm going to click on my home option, and I'm going to use the sum feature and hit enter, and that's going to sum my total right here. Okay? Everybody with me? I'll put a border around this. Then I'll make a chart. Insert a chart. We'll say all charts. It'll be a line chart. We'll do like that. And then you see the last hop. The last hop is so dramatic because I also included the total. So when I jumped from 50 to 275, I had a gradual progression. It was a straight line, but then as soon as I included that last sum, that's a problem. So what I'm going to do is undo this, and then I'm going to build a chart from this series instead. Everybody see what I'm doing? All charts, line chart. There we go. All right. So we could change this title to numbers, increasing numbers. That equal 275. Now, if I was just playing a numbers game and I wanted to build a series of numbers that all equal at 275, and I wanted to do it in 57 different ways, and I wanted to automate it, and let's just say I'm doing it for the sake of a contest for mathematics, applied math students or something like that. All right, so I'm gonna stop. I'm in my developer option. I'm gonna stop recording. Okay, I've stopped recording. So I have a macro now. The name of the macro is trial, and I can run it. I can step through it one action at a time. I can edit it. I can also take that same series of tasks that I performed in the Excel spreadsheet, and I can convert that macro to a set of visual basic statements that I can suck into Visual Studio, and I can build a plugin for Excel that way. It's a really cool, really quick way of automating things in Office applications. You can use this same macro in Word. You can use this macro in PowerPoint. You can use this macro in Access. And so it's just a very, very powerful way to do this. Now, I want this thing to work like it's supposed to. I started with C5. And so what I'd like to do is I'm going to add a sheet. And I'm going to change the sheet here. I'm going to rename it to test sheet, just so that I don't have a name conflict, right? And what I'd like to do is click on A1 and run the macro and see what happens and see if it builds here instead of C5. Again, it all depends on the features, but I want you to watch what happens. I want you to see if we run into a snag with that name. So I click on the macros option. I'm going to run this. Everybody see what happened? Everyone saw what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.